Um, for those of you on the call that are not familiar with this setup, we have started putting together some agent panels to have a few agents come on board with us and talk through a specific topic, whether it's, we've had lead generation, market trends, data, AI, and now we're doing property marketing. And so today I am joined by three lovely, lovely agents, Elizabeth, Janette, and yes, Derek May. So we are going to be talking about online and offline methods for effective property marketing. And so for those of you on the call that are not on the agent panel necessarily, I don't want you to feel like you're not a part of the conversation and that you're just watching this happen. We still want your participation. We still want you to be as involved as possible. And so as I'm kind of posing questions throughout today's room, if you guys have any answers or have any insights of your own, don't feel like you can't just jump in, raise your hand, respond in the chat. This is meant to be interactive. Yes, we do have a panel of agents that are going to be sharing their insight and their expertise with us, but the more the merrier. And so with that being said, I'm going to let the three of you kind of introduce yourselves really briefly for the agents that are on this call, as well for anyone that is going to be watching this recording back. And so Elizabeth, I'm going to have you kick things off.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the team lead for Elizabeth Elliott and Associates. We're located in Fresno, all of Los Angeles, Orange County, and we will be in Oregon now.
Yes, that's right. That's so exciting. Congratulations. I'm very excited for your team to start expanding into Oregon. It's a beautiful place. I have never been to Oregon, but I hear tremendously wonderful things. So welcome, Elizabeth. Janette, I'm going to have you go next.
Okay. Hi, I am Janette Lancaster, and I am with Absolute Real Estate Link. I cover the Bay Area, East Bay, San Francisco, San Joaquin County, and then a couple of others, but been around for about 22 years, and it is my joy to help people get into homes.
Awesome. And what a joy that is. All right, Derek, I'm going to have you go last, but we're saving the best for last. And then we will go ahead and launch into our first topic.
Derek May, I've been in the business for 20 years, mostly working within the marketing department and helping start brokerages from a brand perspective and coaching agents around marketing, helping with their listings. I've seen a lot of methodologies from different agents and the successful ones, and I kind of know what they do, and then I kind of modeled how I handle a listing and stuff like that off of their business and watching them do their thing. So I have a little bit of a different viewpoint than the other ladies on this panel. So collectively, we'll all have some good stuff to share.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to go ahead and just dive right in. I've got some questions here. I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, but to kick things off, what I want to hear from you guys is, what is your current process for creating a compelling listing presentation? What is your kind of thought process behind it? What are the essential components that you'll include, and how do you kind of tailor them to the different types of properties and markets that the three of you kind of respectively are involved in? So I'm going to have Derek kick things off with this first question. And so, yeah, Derek, I'd love to hear from you.
Great. I just put myself on mute so I could let the ladies go first. Okay. So on an LP, yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is you got to make sure you have something about yourself and what makes you unique in there. People don't read, so I don't use like the 3 or 4 paragraph bio. I hit with like 4 or 5 bullet points about me. Then I talk about whatever makes the property unique. If it has unique architecture or something like that, I try to add a little bit of a spin. Just depending on what exactly it is, I try to say, okay, I'm going to market you in this place or that place or this place, instead of just having some broad overview of, hey, I'm going to do direct mail, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I make it seem super targeted around what makes that property unique. And when it's a tract home, that's hard to do. But whenever when it's something different, you really have an opportunity to pepper in some extra stuff to make it tailored towards them, which is what they want, right? They want to feel special, like their property, what the buyers are going to be. You probably got hired because you've sold some of that stuff before or whatever. So from a marketing standpoint, my plan, what I'm going to do, I outline that very clearly about what's the nuance of that property and where I'm going to hit it on the nuanced or niche channels that way. Pricing is its own thing. You're going to talk about pricing and all that in comps, but for me, what I really focus on in my listing presentation is the how I'm going to sell your house, how I'm going to market it.
Mhm.
And typically, again, I do that tailored around whatever makes it unique.
Mhm. Absolutely. Ladies, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. Is there anything for your respective markets? Because Elizabeth, I know you are in Southern California, and Jeanette, you're in Northern California. Is there any sort of data that you're including, any sort of market information that you're including? Could you guys speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so every time I go into a listing presentation, I'm doing my extensive research up front. So I'm kind of weird. I like to not just pull up comps for the property. I also go to the neighborhood. I talk to the neighbors. I get some intel from them, see if there's anything that would be more beneficial, because every time you go into a listing presentation, you want to find out if you're going to be the first, the second, or the last person that they're interviewing. If you're the last person, that means they haven't made a decision. So you really have to like step up your game. And if you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I spoke to Nancy, your next door neighbor, and she told me that you completely redecorated your backyard. That's something that you're providing value. But I also, in our listing presentation, we also have like data and statistics. So they have their own separate kind of property presentation, and then our full listing presentation. And then I'll always ask, am I the first? Am I your second? How many agents are you interviewing, or am I the last? What is it that you're looking for in an agent? What is the most important factor to you? Is it going to be selling the property as quickly as possible, or is it going to be netting as much as you can? Are you looking to, use the funds in order to purchase another one? Did you know, seller, that we have a program where you don't necessarily have to sell your house and buy one contingent on selling this one? You can actually buy it beforehand. Did you know that? So yeah, we spend a lot of time tailoring it to each specific property.
Absolutely. Jeanette, do you have anything that you'd like to add, whether that be any specific tools that you use to create your listing presentations, anything that is signature to you and your business that you'd like to include?
So I'll say that I do the homework as we all should. And I use quite a few different tools, because you want to make sure that you grab as much data and as much information as you possibly can to share with this client. But when I first go in, so I use RPR, I use Cloud CMA, I use all your tax documents, I'll use your what is it? The tools that come with escrow from escrow officers. So I do a bunch of research before I go in as well. And I also put a presentation together. And then what I would love the idea that Elizabeth does by going and talking to neighbors. However, what I do is just go in and talk very specifically with the client before I begin my presentation. So I just make sure I have all my data and facts, and make sure that it's very inclusive of their property and very beautiful, because that's what they look at. Like he said, they don't read. So you want to make sure that they have all of that and have that to look at as well.
It also helps, like, for example, if you're going into a property and maybe it needs like some cosmetic work to really net the most for your potential seller. I'll go ahead and show them before and after of properties that we have, done small renovations to large renovations, and how much they actually netted, because sellers are like, oh well, how much did they actually make, right? So it's good to have examples ready to go.
I just realized I was on mute. And is there certain components to your listing presentation that you guys will use in order to like Elizabeth was saying, how many agents is a seller going to be interviewing? How do you guys stand out from those different agents to create like a really compelling argument for why a seller should choose you to be their agent?
That's you go, Derek.
That's all I go. For me, it's process. I just hammer process. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and this, because a lot of agents will flip through the listing presentation and be like, and this talks about our company, and this talks about this, and this is about Matterport, and this is, I'm like, I'm going to do Matterport, I'm going to do a photographer, I'm going to hold it open after 10 days, I'm going to coming soon for a few days, I'm going to do I give them my plan. My listing presentation is just basically, it's that. It's, here's my strategy, here's how I'm going to execute it, and this is why you should hire me. This is what I do. Because I do the same thing for every listing, it's very easy for me to articulate in terms of photography, Matterport, those things that I'm going to do. 10 days for the open, one open, no showings before the open. Those types of things that I do every time I get a listing. And I know I was talking about tailoring the presentation to each listing, and that's different. That's how I'm going to market it. But the way I'm going to list it and what I'm going to do, the way I check my boxes, I make sure that's very clear in my listing presentation. And that makes me stand out, because I don't know that a lot of realtors have a process, and present company excluded, but I've seen agents do LPs, and I've been on like $30 million listing presentations, and I've just sat there and been like, holy shit. It's just, this page talks about this page talks about that. And it's like, well, no. So it's all about what I'm going to do. Like, this is my process.
Absolutely. Do either of you ladies have anything to add as well?
Oh, I was going to say, so two things. One, I've been pushing my agents to really tailor their value propositions, and you're going to need to know your value proposition so much more now than ever before. And it's not just, oh, well, this is what we can do for you, and did you know I sold this home down the street? It's like you have to show your skill, your background, why you deserve to get the listing or the buyer over all these other agents. And then, the second thing that I also like to do is you want to give value, right? And build that rapport. So when I go into a house and, they're living in there or they're moving, I try to pick up certain things like photos, books, maybe credentials, like where they went to college or university, and build that conversation off of that, right? Because it's kind of awkward for them. Like they don't know you, you're coming into their house and you don't know them, and you want to make them feel comfortable.
And I have to agree with that too. You absolutely have to know your value proposition, but you also have to know your client, because if you don't, it doesn't matter if you're first, second, or third. They are not going to choose you if you don't know who they are.
Research them.
Absolutely. Everyone's on social media nowadays. One thing too that I was going to say is that one of the biggest things that I've noticed whenever talking to agents is that a lot of agents are like, when you're building relationships with people in the business, you cannot make it just about real estate or wanting to sell their home, because they can kind of feed off of that energy and the little bit of that, almost like if you're too eager, they're like, oh, you want to be able to build that rapport with them first and be like, this is who I am as a person. This is where my value lies, X, Y, and Z. And I feel like that's what people tend to gravitate towards as well too. That's just my 2 cents. Let's talk photography and virtual tours, as well as open houses, both online and offline methods, in terms of, let's say you've got the listing you've got the listing, everything's going well, and now you're trying to figure out the best way to market this listing. For the agents that are on this panel, do you guys tend to go towards more online methods like social media, virtual tours, things like that? Or do you tend to go more of like a traditional grassroots approach?
A little bit of both, depending on where the property is. Right? It really depends on the area and the market of that particular area, especially now, because things are so different. You have to you have to make the adjustment because you're going to have certain clientele over here versus over here. So you have to make the adjustment.
I do both.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm very kind of, I call it, guerrilla marketing. So like our recent listing, I found out the average days on market that the property's sitting is about 50 to 60 days. And to me, I want to push as many people to the house in the first 2 weeks and get multiple offers. So I was adamant that my property's not going to sit. So I went and door knocked 280 doors that first week. And including the doors, I went to restaurants. I talked to them about it. I asked them to share my listing with their friends and family, and then leaving flyers at those restaurants and place of businesses too. So we did Google ads for it. We did heavy online marketing campaigns. I mean, yeah, I even did direct mailers, like anything and everything you can think of, I did for this listing. So within less than 2 weeks, got multiple offers with backups. But yeah, and I enjoy it. Like that's one thing that you can do. Like you can door knock and say, hey, listen, I'm not selling you anything. I just wanted to invite you to the first open house, and then build the conversation. Like I'm really big into classic cars, primarily Mustangs. And one of the homeowners was like, listen, I'm not looking to sell. Y'all always call me. I'm like, listen, I haven't called you. I know that for a fact. If you want to give me your phone number, I'll start calling you. He's like, oh, do you drive a Mustang? I'm like, do you have one to sell? And then we just started building like a conversation over that. So I do all of it.
Derek, the real estate marketer in the room.
For me, the online stuff is about the property and the offline stuff is about me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I direct mail, I'm not going to sell the house whenever I send a direct mailer to like 7 houses down, but maybe they want to list with me. Right. So someone's going to buy the house from online, probably something that powers the MLS or maybe social media if you do it properly. Your social can also promote you. It does both. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But anything I do offline, I do with the intention of selling me and trying to get another listing. The seller's happy about it. They think it's about them. Great. It's another, thing. Check off the box. It's another way to spread the message and get more eyeballs. But the offline stuff is really about me. And I'm not trying to make it about me, but that's just the way the media works now. Gone are the days you send out direct mail to your social farm, right? All your social farming is done on your actual Instagram. And so I always send out a 500 mailers just listed to like a bullseye around the property. And then whenever I sell it, I do it just sold and I change the picture so that they think I have like this listing and I just sold something else, because they're probably not looking at the address that closely. Mm-hmm. So for me, the direct mail and stuff like that is always about me.
No, absolutely. And I think too, going back to what Elizabeth was saying too, about how she's very like boots on the ground, going to different houses, door knocking, going to local businesses and things like that. Those are all offline methods, but they are in a way about her as well, getting her name out there, showing that, I'm not just a face on a business card or on a direct mailer. Like this is who I am. This is the rapport that we can build. This is the value that I bring to the table. And so I know the three of you guys are also very big on social media. What sorts of are you guys frequently posting about listings on social media? What does that kind of process look like a little bit more? I know we've got some great tools. One of our Radius vendors, Rolla, does really these cool like short form videos in terms of house tours. Do you guys do anything like that? I want to kind of steer the conversation in terms of how are people utilizing all of the different online tools that are out there to help you market that listing. Jeanette, I will start with you.
I do use social media. I will say that I probably need to do a little bit more of the property. Mm-hmm. I do more of the education. I do some listing tours. However, I do more of the educational piece for real estate and probably need to do a little bit more of the listing and my solds, because I've been told you got to get your solds out there. However, things have been working just fine. And then I do do a lot of boosting of my listings. So I do that a little bit separately with, Google ads and YouTube and all that good stuff. But as far as Instagram, Facebook, all those other places, it's a lot about education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Elizabeth, Derek, what about you guys? Because I know every agent's process is kind of a little bit different. And so I'm hoping by each of you sharing your process, then it'll all come together and formulate one master process.
Yeah, I've said it on a couple of panels before, but for me, my social media is the Derek May Show. It's my day and life, and now my dog and whatever. Like if I'm up in the cabin shooting some cabins that I like or whatever, and then when I have something pertinent to share, like a new listing or coming soon, then that's my commercial during the Derek May Show, right? So my Instagram is not all realtored out. I'm like the furthest thing from that. It's just looks like a regular dude's Instagram, and then a coming soon. I'll go and I'll walk the property and be like, coming soon. And so it looks, like, oh, he's selling some real estate. And then when it's just listed, like just listed. And I'll get those marks in without just cramming it down people's throats, because they'll unfollow me, right? Nobody wants to be sold on Instagram or sold enough on there with this gadget or that or whatever. And you're like, why am I getting followed because I looked at some Pumas online? Now I see Puma shoes everywhere or whatever. There's enough of that going on. So I just try to just short and sweet, just get it in with all of my regular life info, my memes, my whatever, my jokes, my trips to Costco to eat 4 hot dogs or whatever, I hook people with my regular brand, and then I just slip in the real estate stuff as a commercial.
I love that. Joe, I know you're also on the call too. Joe is a member of Letty's team with Aspire Los Angeles, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because I know you guys do some incredible work with digital, online, social media. Letty is very big into the social media game, and so I'm curious to hear from you as well in terms of how the team goes about marketing their listings. If you can share any insight, I'd love to hear from you. I know I'm also putting you on the spot a little bit, so feel free to take that with a grain of salt, should you choose.
No, it's fine. So there's like 5 or 6 things I think we do with every listing, and one is definitely a just listed post on social. Those we like to boost them on Instagram. I think it depends too on like the price point, location, if it's going to be a tougher sale, easier sale. If we feel like we need to boost it, we'll boost it. If something's been sitting on the market, we had a listing that was sitting on the market for a while in downtown LA, just because everything's been slow in downtown in general. And we'll do e-blasts, so basically also leveraging like other agents, so just pulling everybody's email in certain zip codes, keeping that in our follow-up boss in their system, and that way we can send out like traction emails to certain areas. So for that one, it was like, okay, everybody in 900, 08, 18, all these different areas, blast them with an email. Kind of to Derek's point, I don't think we ever really send out mailers. Most of it's done online. But yeah, social, Instagram, e-blasts, and then we do an e-newsletter every single week. If there's a new listing that week, we try and put that somewhere in there, but also kind of not only focusing on properties. And then through ActivePipe, you can see like, oh, okay, this person clicked on this email 4 or 5 times. There's only 3 links in the email. It's probably a good chance that they're looking at the property. So yeah.
Are you sending those e-blasts out to, you said, other agents to help kind of build your referrals out, or how does that process kind of?
Yeah, so that's more for if something's been sitting on the market for a little while and we're like, okay, how can we get more eyes on this? And like, let's say we do a price reduction, then we'll e-blast. The most recent one, like I said, was downtown LA, and I pulled 3 or 4 zip codes for downtown, and then sent it to probably, you know, 300, like 300 agents directly that their offices are based out of downtown, and you know, they might have more people in their network. They might forward that to their clients, and it ended up like we started getting a lot more traffic after we sent that email. More agents started reaching out because it's easy to forget. Obviously, it's easy to forget about properties after they've been sitting on the market for a while. And a price reduction is fine, but if it's not like a substantial price reduction, I don't think anybody really catches that in their online searches. So you have to just make it as visible as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's something that we hadn't necessarily talked about, but I think that that's a great way to get further eyes on a listing too. And so, thank you for participating. So what I'm hearing too is that a lot of agents are utilizing kind of like a blend of both online and offline. Instagram is still very much the place to be. And then Joe, I know you spoke a little bit to the ways that you're helping kind of generate leads for sellers, especially after it's been on the market for a few days. But I'm curious to agents on our panel today, is there anything that you guys are doing specifically in terms of e-blasts, in terms of utilizing your CRMs? What does that kind of process look like for you guys as you're kind of starting to do that lead gen for your sellers, excuse me?
So I use Follow Up Boss as well, even though it's now owned by Zillow, so might switch that out. But I have my Follow Up Boss set up to where like any people that I've met, I put in like their price range and the areas. So I'll follow up with them, but I also have an extensive network of banks and lenders, like mortgage brokers that I know. So I'll go ahead and send it out to them. But most importantly, like for instance, this property qualified for the community census tax rebate. And it's not all of Los Angeles, it's certain sections of LA. So that saves you up to $7,500 towards your closing costs. It's kind of like a grant. You don't need a specific loan program to have it. And it was surprising because majority of the agents that came to my showings and called me had no clue about that, and neither did their loan officers. So, you know, I was able to build rapport with them and help them out. And even the ones that, you know, they didn't get backup position. The fact that I gave them something that they could give to their clients makes them look so good. So instead of saying, hey, you didn't get the house, it's like, hey, listen, but you know what? I found this out for you. So I kind of feel like real estate has this like negative connotation that it's a dog eat dog world. And if I can help somebody, like, you don't know, you might end up working with that person tomorrow or a year from now, and you want to be remembered because you helped them. So.
No, absolutely. I want to hear in terms of like, Elizabeth, you shared a specific experience of, you know, excuse me, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but thank you for sharing. I wanted to hear a little bit more anecdotally from our panelists in terms of what a really great, perhaps, listing presentation from start to end. What did that experience look like? Maybe it was a house that was on the market and got snatched up like that. What was like a really good campaign that you may have run? Derek, I will throw that question over to you to see if you have any stories or anecdotes that you'd like to share, any lessons that you may have learned along the way, and what your big takeaways were.
I'm going to have to think on that one. I have nothing good to deliver right now, so give me a second.
No, you're all good. You're all good. Take a second. I know I kind of threw that one in there, but I think it's really valuable too, as much as we have these conversations, to also share our experiences and what may have been, you know, a really good experience or really bad experience could be a lesson learned for an agent that, you know, may encounter something similar down the line. And, you know,
about one listing in particular.
It could be a combination of different listings. It could be one specific. It's really up to you. I just like to hear from a specific experience and
Okay.
how that kind of process looked for you.
Okay, I'll be back on that one.
All right, sounds good. Elizabeth, Jaynette, can either of you think of one off the top of your head?
I've got two.
Oh, Elizabeth, then I will. Derek, you think on yours. I'll let Elizabeth share first.
I've had a lot of coffee this morning, guys. So
She's on one. She's ready to go.
I'll give you
I love that.
I'll give you a negative one. I interviewed. It was so funny because it was close to where I could literally walk to this place. And the guy's like, yeah, you know, I've seen your profile on LinkedIn. Like, it's funny to me because I hated social media. I refused to have a LinkedIn when I was in the mortgage industry. And then finally I was like, you know what, let me just try it. Because I thought it was like Facebook, but then I got my first listing on there and I got my first buyer from there. So that's my bread and butter. And then like Instagram and Facebook is secondary. But so like I met with him and he is a hard money lender. So he and I built a rapport because I know all about it. We work with investors. And I said, listen, am I the first one you're meeting with, the second one, or the third one? Who am I? And he's like, well, you're the first one. I go, well, that's great. But let me ask you a favor. If you interview the other two and, you know, there's something that they are providing that I'm not, please let me know. Give me another option to at least meet with you and be the last one. So here's the thing I don't like about listings is that you'll sometimes get sellers who are like, oh, I just want the cheapest person. And that's exactly what he did. He called me. He's like, so this agent is going to take 1%. And I said, you know, do you feel like you're deserving of a 1% representation? He's like, well, no, but you know, I know real estate. I'm like, that's great. Maybe you might be leaving money on the table, considering the fact that I actually live less than a mile from you and I can walk down here and I know all your neighbors now because I talked to them before our meeting. They said, but I won't take 1%. Because I feel like if you start accepting that you deserve 1% or less, then, you know, it's like you need to also know your value. So I was a little upset that I didn't get it, but at the same time, you know, you move on. So that's the negative. The positive was I had a potential seller. She met with a ton of agents in the area. And there is a lot of discrimination still in California. I get it all the time, believe it or not. And, you know, she was like, I only want to work with this. And I'm like, listen, why does it matter? I have the experience, you know, I've even given you my client's contact information so you can call them to see how their experience with me was. So it took a lot of work, but then finally she hired me. And even at the end, I helped her move all of her furniture into the moving van going clear across the country. And she's like, you know, I'm going to hire you everyone. And I'm like, see, the color of your skin doesn't matter.
No.
I have a weird one. Okay, so I interviewed for a $4 million listing. So it's gonna be the biggest listing that personally I was ever gonna have. They just happened to read my bio on the Compass website whenever I worked at Compass, and they liked the way it sounds, which is random. But okay. And the owner had spent a lot of time working on the house himself to upgrade it in the Italiano fashion of like design. So pillars and like different kinds of stones and hand hewn wood and all that stuff. And it wasn't finished. And so he's like, okay, you can either list it like this, or you can list it saying that like, I will finish it. And here's my plans, and this is what the concepts look like, and you can put it in the. And I was just like, oh God, okay. How about we just do it this way? He's like, but what if we do this? What if we start an Instagram just to show the progress of the house, and I'm working on it, and that's our marketing activity. And then we follow all the Kardashians and everybody that the Kardashians are friends with, so that people follow because this is their taste, and they can watch me work on it, and that'll be our marketing plan. And I was like, It could work because I didn't want to, I'm not going to be like, no. And he's like, Derek, I need you just to tell me like yes or no. Like, do you think that's a good idea? And I was like, I've never tried it, but I'm willing to try it. But I don't really. And he's like, yes or no? And I was like, yes. And then he must have just felt that I wasn't into it because I didn't get a call back after that. But I was just like, wow, like you're really feeling yourself when you think that somebody wants to watch you, change out some wall sconces and follow the Kardashians, and then you're going to have 50,000 followers and we're going to sell it through Instagram. So that was, and and he had read my bio, which says, I helped start this company. I branded this company. I've coached agents. Like I'm a marketer. And so I guess I failed the marketing test when it came to Kardashian Instagram DIY channel. So didn't get the listing.
I feel like if you're gonna, and this is just me, my background is in social media. And so I'm like, if you're gonna be doing a follow me along as I'm doing this sort of renovation fix up, Instagram is probably not going to be, unless you're doing like a series of reels, but TikTok is probably going to be where you'll find your niche of people that are like, oh, I actually want to watch home renovation videos. This is really exciting to me. Like I want to see the progression of this house and how it goes from point A to point B. Like, that's so funny.
Yeah, but also like nobody wants to watch your dog shit like choices on design because it was horrible. And even if they do, they're not going to want to buy the house because it's like if you want to watch DIY on TikTok, you're not going to be like, oh, holy shit, those are some really bad choices. I want to buy that house.
What were the choices that this unnamed client wanted to do on the?
It looked like an Olive Garden in there, It was just the fake plants, just the.
Hey, I love Olive Garden.
Who doesn't? Tour Italy all day. That's my.
I'm not knocking on Olive
Garden.
Garden here.
But I'm not going to make my house look like the OG.
One thing too that back in like the 2000s, 2010s, like Italian rustic was very, very popular in people's kitchens, and like that, like the whole like Italian, European, very like rustic kitchen was what every, especially where I lived growing up, every like upper middle class house looked just like that. And that
it's big in Shady Canyon and Newport Cove still, and like when it's done well and you have a team of designers and like good materials and like a plan, and you're not just he's got overalls on and a pencil in his mouth and he's just like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Like there's no plan. It's just controlled chaos, right?
Hey, he had overalls and a dream. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's all it takes. That's the name of the Instagram handle, right?
Did he think that by following the Kardashians that his account would populate then when people are going to go and follow? Oh, I see. Does he not realize? Your account's not going to populate unless the Kardashians are following you back.
He thought that because they have like some Italiano taste or whatever in some of their houses, or he's like, yeah, see, they use this material. Nobody knows about this material. That somehow they'd see it and want to maybe share it. I don't know. It was a hot mess, but it was $4 million. So I try to play along. Like we can try it. I'll tell sellers that we can try it. I'm happy to try it. Unless I already know it doesn't work at all. But I didn't know that didn't work because I haven't tried it. So I was like, I'll try it. I'm willing to try it. I'll try it. That's important to you. Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah. How do you guys, this is a little bit off topic, but how do you guys navigate sellers with, they're really set on going in a certain direction, and you as a realtor, you want to work with them, you want their business, you want to have a good relationship with them, but like their plan is not, it might be somewhat outlandish. How do you kind of navigate that conversation? Do you tend to just let them do as they please, or are you more honest with them? What does that kind of look like?
You have to be honest with them, and you have to reel them back in. You have to allow them to try. Because some may be old school or what have you. I had one that said, I want you to argue with me. so you can see my viewpoint on this and what it is that I want to do. So you have to allow them to try and then reel them in. And normally you'll win because you're the expert at the end of the day, as long as you have all of your facts in a row.
No, that makes sense. I can't imagine. I can imagine you guys probably have some really funny stories in terms of just client interactions, some horror stories in general, or some even really good ones. But we do have a few minutes left, and so I kind of want to open up the floor for discussion. If anyone else has any questions, that was kind of the end of my line of questioning, and so I want to open up the floor. If anyone else has any questions for our panelists in terms of property marketing, grassroots approaches, digital marketing, things like that. So floor is open.
I'm going to jump in before anybody has any questions, because one thing we didn't talk about is listing description. And I think that it's super important. I use AI for that all the time, right? And I'll just gather all the key facts from the MLS, bed, bathroom count, whatever. And then I'll just start listing like big island, big kitchen island, whatever, this. And then I always make sure whatever keyword somebody might be searching, like on Truly or something like that, there's websites where you can enter in a keyword. And so if they're looking for mid-century modern and that's what it is or whatever, so I always make sure I get the architecture in there, and then all the upgrades, run it through AI. AI will give you a description that's like this long and has nestled mentioned in there like 45 times. So make sure you go through and comb it out. Or I'll tell ChatGPT, like, stop using nestled and get me to like 1,000 characters or whatever. But description is really important because people do search for keywords. And so I would just make sure whatever keywords make it special, you're putting in there. And that's it. Now I'm going to be quiet.
No, I think that is actually a very important thing to note. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm so sorry, Janet. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was saying that was a great tip.
No, I agree. In terms of SEO and Derek has had a whole room about that, but no, being as descriptive as possible and as concise as possible, I think too, is going to be the way to go. So good tip. All right, we are about at the end of time. I want to thank our lovely panelists, Elizabeth, Janet, and Derek for joining me, for bearing with my little losses of train of thought every now and then. And I did go off questions every now and then, but I appreciate you guys, your time, your expertise, you're willing to just participate and come together. I absolutely love these panel discussions. And I hope you guys do too. So thank you very much for joining me today. And to everyone else that joined and listened and participated, I appreciate you guys. Truly, that's what makes rooms the best experience possible, is when we're all sharing our experiences. And so, Elizabeth, was that a hand raise?
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey Joe, can you tell your aunt I said hi?
Yes, I will. I'll let her know.
Do you guys know each other?
Yeah, he joined a Compass team, I think right after I had left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. The real estate world is very
Small.
is very small and very well connected. So that doesn't surprise me. But I hope everyone has a great rest of their oh my God, I wanted to say Wednesday. Memorial Day weekend kicked my butt. I hope everyone has a great rest of their Thursday. And we will see you guys again next time. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.